streaming to...
Can I ask a question outside of class while
Yeah,
we're
go ahead.
waiting?
Absolutely.
Lupe, Jennifer, I'm just curious, is the install requirement, is that an apprenticeship thing or is that just a CDT thing? Are you guys required to do that too?
No.
Okay, so it must just be a CDT thing. Okay.
It kind
So
of
the
makes sense too, because
is that one of
CDT... Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
because I think it's not one of our workload in that unit.
Oh, okay.
We don't do installations in that unit.
Okay. Are you
All right.
required to, Lupe?
No, I've done a couple, just but pretty much had someone there with me when I did it, so um, just basically just
This
typing what they.
meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was for everybody or if it was just our bosses. Okay.
So can you tell me more about the subsystem that you installed today?
It was FDR pause, which that was actually one of my questions that I was talking to my trainer about, that I've never used that system.
Hmm.
And so I have not been trained on how to use it or what it actually does, but I know how to install it and upgrade it within the system.
Is it a
So
product or a system?
it's the product that's in the system. So
Okay.
What's it stand for, do you know?
let me look it up.
Fast data recovery, I believe, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a weird name. It's just it's like a backup tool.
Is
For
that
I think it's for like disaster recovery, right? That's
Yeah,
what I was thinking. Yeah.
What is the name of that subsystem again?
It's
FTR.
FDR.
The company that owns it is BMC.
Oh,
Used
so
to be
it's not from
CompuWare.
IBM, so it's from BMC.
Yeah, it's a vendor product.
Okay.
Or middleware, or I don't, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so I was telling him, I'm like, it's cool that I know how to do this now, but now I need to learn and understand what the product does. So, one step at a time.
Okay, so this is this what we are talking about?
Yeah, they just bought it out. It used to be CompuWare, and now it's BMC,
Okay.
and their product is called FDRPAS. Is what we.
FDRPAS.
Mhm.
That's not even pronounceable.
They call it FDR pause in my unit.
Just pronounce the part that can and spell out the part that cannot.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, backing up a mainframe that needs to be up and running all the time is very, very tricky. Um, and it also depends on the volume too, because if the speed of backing up is too slow, then you won't have enough time to do the backup. Like if you're supposed to back up every day, but it takes more than a day to do it, then we have a problem.
Mhm.
Does it back up to tape or does it back up to a cloud resource?
Ours backs up to tape.
Okay. So
It does at least on our system, we have our setup to do a weekly backup because we don't need our system on Saturday or Sunday, and then it does a daily backup just for that day for each day. So that if we had to do restore, we would do the weekly and then each day after that to update.
so each day is an incremental backup.
Um, it's only for that particular day because that was kind of my question. It was like if if you do a backup on Wednesday, does that backup include Monday and Tuesday? And they said no, it would just have the Tuesday backup, the Tuesday information.
So it's
So
not self-consistent. So it's not self-sufficient. You need to bring up the weekly backup first, and then apply the Monday and then the Tuesday backups for the entire system
exactly,
to restore to Tuesday.
yes.
Yeah, that's typical because incremental backup is a whole lot easier. It doesn't take nearly as much time, and as a result, that just kind of makes sense. Oh, Sabir is here. I'm admitting him in. And he is here. Hi, Zabir.
Hello, everybody.
All right.
Hold on one sec.
And I can stop sharing my screen and let you share your screen. Let
Let's
me,
try that.
yeah, let me back out of my sharing. All right, there you go. So you should be able to share now because you are actually admin of this channel now. If not, I can check on some of the options and make sure that you can share. And by the way, we are also recording to Zoom today, so I'm
Okay.
trying that. I'm trying that out.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me see here. I'm gonna go this. Oops, it's the wrong email from TAC. Okay, so if we're talking about today, we're gonna talk about. Looks like we're going to go into some problem tools. And for grins, I want to kind of get an idea. So we got people at CDT. We have Franchise Sackboard, which is basically their own data center. And then we got a DMV. So how many people use what TAC and I share, TAC shared with me, problem PD tools from IBM by chance? Or have they?
I have not yet, but I know we have a bunch of them, but I have not learned anything about them or had any hands-on with any of them.
Okay. So let me go ahead.
Yeah, I'll put the link of that document into the channel chat today, so that way we can refer to it.
Okay.
Give me a second here. There we go. So
Oops. Let me put it here in case. I also put it in the. Oh. He beat me to it. So, okay, there's two different flavors. Okay, I was always, born and bred using what CompuWare's suite of these tools, which they're basically the same thing. To be honest with you, I love CompuWare way better. I'll be honest. They also are the ones that really wrote the root of all this, and then IBM piggybacked off of them. But the main things that they're used for are basically all kinds of types of problems, whether they're in programming. We call it in CompuWare Expediter. In IBM's version, let me share that document since I had it up. I don't know what happened to it.
all right, Sabir, do you want to share your screen so we can? Because we are not seeing your screen share yet.
I am sorry about that. Let's see. I thought I had that up.
Yeah, depending on how many things are on your screen, you should see a share screen thing, that is green.
There we go.
There you go. All right.
My apologies. I thought I was already lit up.
We're still not seeing your screen, so maybe there's a lag or delay.
Okay. That's what I was wondering about, because it did say it's lit up like it's sharing. Hold on. Try this again.
Are you using a web client? Oh, there you go. We got it.
Okay. Tried it. All I did was double click it again. See what happened. But now I shrunk you guys though. That's weird.
Yeah, that's what it does. Zoom does that.
It either makes it too big or.
No. We can see your screen. We can hear your voice, so we're good.
All right. So
Can you enlarge your screen just a little bit, please?
Zoom in. Try Control plus. Maybe a few more times. Yep, there we go.
How's that look?
That's
Better,
better.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, bear with me. So what we have here is IBM's hybrid of these set of tools, or basically we're going to call them, IBM calls them PD, problem determination tools. So the main ones are Debug Tool, which for the CompuWare version, folks, like EDD uses CompuWare still, and the equivalent would be what we call Expediter. Okay. As we go throughout here, I'm gonna scroll through the document here, and I actually will share all these documents too. I'll share the other manuals too for the other tools, because you guys have access to them. Well, at least CDT does. I don't know. Dell Department of Healthcare Services has CompuWare too, so they still have CompuWare. We chose to go about keeping that, and that was because the developers were gonna go crazy without having, because they were just so used to using CompuWare. So plus they gave us a great deal. So so basically we have problem determination tools, and we have the overview is basically for the family is performance analyzer, which in CompuWare we would call it, they call it strobe, which is doing all kinds of performance and analyzation. A lot of times it's very good to do this up front, but it's a very hard practice to actually get involved with performance analyzation, to do it up front before you migrate, because then you could actually see a lot of dead code, a lot of stuff that's looping, even though it will run, and it may run and it'll still, but it isn't processing at its peak performance. So tools like Performance Analyzer, and in CompuWare's world, that's called strobe. Okay. IBM then has the Debug Tool. So all that is helping developers debug the applications running it, whether it's in batch, whether it's online, simultaneously in DB2 and DB2 store procedures. DB2 is like a totally separate, its own separate, and actually CICS debug tool and DB2's debug tool, and CompuWare is the same way. Expediters debug tool, Expediters for DB2 and Expediter for CICS. They're almost like separate, totally separate components. So when it comes to the software support, for me, for instance, I'll let the CICS folks coordinate it for the CICS team. The DBA folks kind of coordinate it for themselves. I still help them, me personally, get it squared away, but either way, it's all team. We're all involved. So and then we have the fault analyzer, which in the fault analytics is what the same thing as what in CompuWare calls the Ab-Indeed. This is going to show you things that are happening, things that are blown up. We use the word blown up, inconsistencies, errors. Jobs are still running, but they're whatever, just strange things that you might see happening in queuing, address, thrashing, whatever. It's a lot of that's on the system side of the house. And then you got IBM File Manager, which is really, really File Manager. And the File Aid is for what CompuWare uses. They call it File Aid. And that's where you can do a lot of especially a lot of good manipulation with Vsan files and looking at record layouts and of looking at record layouts that are large, and you can kind of see like where everything's laid out and how it's, you know, partitioned off, and then you can see all you could do a lot of good compares, clean compares of maybe certain data sets you may have. To the you could do compares, which is better than maybe the command shell in ISPF 3.13. It's cleaner, just depending on what you're looking at. And then you got the workload simulator. This tool I am personally not very familiar with because for whatever reason, well, I am on CompuWare's version. Workload simulator, I am not sure is on our machine in Vacaville. I'd have to double check on that. But workload simulator is actually something that goes hand in hand with what TAC brought up the other day, the testing groups, where they run scripts. Well, with a thing like a product like Workload Simulator, and in CompuWare they use what we call HyperStation. There's scripts that can be reset up for all these testing, and now all these different testing hypotheticals that you can think of. And instead of having to recreate the wheel all the time, you can just do playbacks of scripts that you already have ready to go. So that it helps out the testing team a lot. Unfortunately, like where I work, the testing group, all those people that knew HyperStation for that part of the tool actually they all retired. So now they're caught in the loop of trying to learn it. And so the CompuWare is willing to come out and teach them that, but they've, unless they have time to learn it, it's like, okay, I mean, to sit down in a class right now, we're in a bad position in our own situation. So, but also within the CompuWare tool within Workload Simulator, which we call HyperStation, there's this, they built years ago a situation arose for a customer that is called application audit now, but HyperStation also had this hidden ability, if turned on by the systems programmers. Back in the late 90s, they did this because there's all kinds of tools to monitor like what people do at work, what screens they're hitting, what websites they're hitting. Well, there was a gap in auditing going on where they go, well, how do we know what screens they're using on the mainframe? In our situation, we actually, one of the things came up from an IRS audit. So my coworker and I said, well, CompuWare has that ability in that tool that you can turn on. Well, back in the late 90s, and you know, when it came out with it, it was a really CPU intensive product back then. But this is in 2015 at EDD where I work, where me and my coworker, two coworkers, I mean, decided, well, why don't we try using that? And we had CompuWare massage and they go, well, it's way more enhanced now. That was the old days, and it was actually created for a customer, and we use that tool to leverage that ability. So, not to get too far into the weeds with that, a lot of people don't know that exists, but the Workload Simulator, I don't think does the same thing. I could be very wrong on that. But I was told by someone at CDT that it doesn't, that's the reason why DHCS still uses HyperStation as well, Department of Healthcare Services, is because HyperStation does a better job for them. So they went ahead and helped share the CompuWare costs with us. So I'm not trying to get involved in the politics and the money and all that, guys. I'm just trying to give you kind of an idea of, and if you have you want to stop me at any time, please do, before I ramble on and make a fool of myself.
This
I have
is
a-
this is Carrie. I hear what you're saying, and you're naming off a lot of these tools and stuff, but for me anyways, I'm not following what what these tools are for, what they're used for, what their functions are. So I'm completely a little bit lost.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
going to say the same thing. I was going to ask if you had anything for us to follow along, like how TAC does the tax notes, and we can follow along and we kind of know the flow and what we're doing there.
This is TAC. I'm putting a link in the both of the regular chat channel and also the chat the channel chat. That is giving you more details about what the workload simulator is for. So I can start with that because I think I know what it is for, even though I have not used the product. So typically when you're dealing with a mainframe, which in other situations it's just a server or a cluster of servers, you might be able to get something to work and it's 100% correct. But the issue is, how many things can you do at the same time without overwhelming the system? That really is the question that a workload simulator can help answer. And this relates all the way back to paging. Remember when we talked about paging, when you don't have enough physical RAM or physical memory, then you'll be paging virtual memory into in and out all the time. And every single time you page a virtual memory page into an I/O frame and page another one back in, that takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of time. And as a result, you can saturate the I/O channel. And once you saturate the I/O channel, the system is just basically not doing anything. So what you're so the link that I just sent you, you'll talk about, the IBM Workload Simulator would do TCP/IP protocol simulation. So it's basically just flooding the system with a lot of traffic and see if it can handle all that traffic. And that's just at the TCP/IP level. And TCP/IP is a networking protocol that is used for HTTP. It's used by databases to talk to the clients and so on and so forth. So that's one. The second one is system network architecture. And once again, the tool can simulate workload. So it's a script that is pumping out traffic just so that we can test whether the system, including the hardware, can handle it or not. Or in the case of it cannot handle it, it will figure out at which point it's going to break. I'm just working down the list here. They have a workload simulator test manager. It is a interface to guide a user through the test process. It's probably, so from what I can see here, it is about the user interface. It's about the user experience, so that a non-programmer can do this. Because traditionally, all of these tools are scripts. Okay, in other systems, it would have been written in Python or JavaScript or stuff like that. On an IBM platform, I'm not really sure what is the scripting language that they are using. So if you go down the list a little bit more, of the document that I just shared, the last step is post-test analysis. So they would check, what type of response time we are talking about and how the response time changes, with the simulated workload. These are all very important because I can share one experience with you guys to emphasize why this is important. Many years ago, Los Rios did not use Canvas. At the time, we were using Blackboard. And the way they set up Blackboard was not able to handle the load. So, students would go into a test, they would start a test, and because the system is overloading, it would time out. It was slow to the point where it would time out the connections and it would kick people out of exams. And that was it. I mean, that was, basically, the professors, they all have to basically be on the on call all the time, because if a student gets kicked out from an exam, the professor would need to somehow get a student back into the test, and that was probably a very good case of having the system load being too much, and they just didn't know that the system would not be able to handle all those students signing in at the same time and be able to work on all their tests at the same time. So all of this stuff here are network based. So the IBM Workload Simulator is mostly about simulating workload from the networking perspective. So is that helping?
Yes.
All right.
Are you sharing your, by chance, are you sharing your, like I said, I can't, your tax notes, I can't open up, guys, so bear with me again, I'm dealing with that little.
I have not written any text note anymore, but those are on the
Okay.
Google Drive. They're accessed through Google Drive. Have you picked up the ARC laptop?
Well, what happened was Kirsten sent a message to Jeff, and I was waiting for his response saying yes, he can come get it. So if it's available, I'll come get it. Well, I'll come get it. Yeah, I'll go get it. I was just assuming that because she said Jeff said she said Jeff needs to end up picking up one.
Okay.
And and I was waiting for him to say, okay, we have it ready. So I didn't know if it was or not, because I didn't see a response from him or not.
I will ping Kirsten and check with her to see.
I didn't want to waste a drive, if you know what I mean. Get there and then look stupid.
Kelly has her hand up.
Kelly Larson, yes.
Oh, that was from earlier when I asked. I forgot to take it down. Sorry. Thought my arm was getting tired. No.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, if you look at the tool, the document that Sabira just showed us, most of those tools are not really intended for system personnel. Those are intended for developers. The debug tool for ZOS, that's for developers. The fault analyzer is for developers. The file manager obviously is for developers and also anyone who needs to go in and make and access. I'm actually surprised that IBM documentation used the term file instead of dataset. Do they mean the same thing in this context, or am I interpreting?
Yes, basically they're the same thing. Yeah, it's just a matter of, well, when you talk about data sets, is it a file?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a partition data set with members in it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just a sequential data set, flat file?
Mm-hmm.
That's normally when you'll hear the word file used. But or input records, that's a file basically. It's reading. It's so yeah, it's pretty interchangeable, I've heard.
Okay.
It's kind of one of those things. So data set and file are basically the same thing.
Okay. Well, I have to chuckle because because all the documents that have read up to this point, they all refer to data sets, and then this one refers to files. So I have to make sure that I am not misinterpreting the term file. So I think the performance analyzer is probably the more interesting one, because that's the one combined with the workload simulator. That's the one that can really kind of pinpoint whether a system has performance issues. So I want to ask the class, have you guys heard of any instances where a system actually has performance issues, like it simply cannot get a job done fast enough?
No.
Okay.
I have heard of File Manager because at the data center they've scheduled a upgrade for a newer version of File Manager.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it does, but I know that we're going to be doing an upgrade on our systems.
Okay.
I can actually, if you guys, I guess I got to share my screen again for some. Here's an example which PD tools versus file aid. I'm sorry, file manager, PD tools. This is on Vacaville, my LPAR. Nothing spectacular about it. File aid is here. And that's CompuWare's version of all these different functionalities you can use with in utilities with particular files. And the same can go to PD for, this is on Vacaville now. You know, I don't know how it's all loaded for everyone else. But PD tools, this is the whole selection of criteria. So the end user might use file manager. They might use file manager for DB2. You see fault analyzer, you see debug tool, and then you see A for application performance analyzer, and then you do, in this case, W for workload simulator. Pretty straightforward with the letters and, you know, what they do. Then it gives you that annoying. So file manager looks like this per se, and file aid looks like this. Essentially the same things, whatever your flavor is and whatever you like. This is where it becomes especially useful for me. There's a million different things you can do, and it's some you'll use every day, some you may never use. But I mean, if you just wanted to display the characteristics of, what's the one I use probably the most? You know, let me just do this. There's an option called search. File aid allows you to do a lot of cool looking things. And if I wanted to just go into a data set, there we go with the name data set, or file tag, just to confuse you on purpose. I could look at everything, and is that my phone?
Sounds like someone's vacuuming.
Let me make sure my volume didn't go crazy. No, it wasn't.
Is that you, Terry?
Nope.
No.
Oh, there it went away. Oh no,
Nope.
it came back again. All right, so it's clocking for a second, so it's looking through a lot of members. Find, I don't know. Let me try to think.
Sounds like somebody's doing something.
I cannot hear it.
Oh,
You can't hear it?
I cannot hear it.
Maybe it's you.
I can turn off my mic and see if it's still there.
You know,
it's
now
stopped.
it stopped now.
Before you turned off your mic, though, Tack, it turned off.
I'm turning it back on.
Wonder if, So this, so if that's too small, let me know, guys. All you got to do is let me know if this is too small. This is just using file manager. I'm looking through every single proc, what we call.
That size is better. The other size I was going to say is too small.
Yeah, it just depends. And bear with me on that. I use monitors. I have monitors attached to my laptop. So bear with me on that. Just let me know. Hey, I'm only using a laptop or whatever, and I need to see it large. I understand, because a lot of, I just happen to have laptops. Monitors left over from years ago, because when I used to work from home all the time, and now I am again. I just popped them back up and hooked them back up again. So, and it comes in handy, because using the laptop alone would drive me crazy, working on the mainframe and doing all the things that we do, especially when you're going through multiple sessions at a time. So if I just wanted to do this is everything you see on the left here in filement is basically telling you a job name. Even, even though I'm looking in what we call the proc live. Procs are just nothing but the procedures of JCL. Basically, you're looking at procs in production, procedures in production that are running, batch, online, what we call CICS jobs or whatever have you. So if I wanted to look for everything, let me think, CD. I'm trying to think of something very, very specific so I don't have a million. I'm doing a find and it says nothing's found. So that evidently didn't work, but I can do, let's say, something simple as disp equals, which is a disposition of a data set. And there's going to be probably quite a lot. So it'll break down each member. If you see here, if you notice, all I did was find on a disposition equals. That's it. That's all I did. So it's going to give me every single member that has, in this member here. Oh, look, it has it a bunch here, a bunch here. So every single time it's located in each member. Then it goes to the next member. I know this is a very large sample size I gave you, but this is just something very, very simple.
Is this for like the customer's use, or is it also for like the data center use?
Data center you would use file manager a lot, but again, when it comes to actual usage, the end users are gonna be mostly your best telltale of when after you install it. You guys have would have your system side of obviously getting it installed and it working correctly, right? But then when you install it, and I know you brought this up the other day, you would install it on what we call the test LPAR. So we have, like in Vacaville, for instance, we call it the Vacaville box tech. Carrie, evidently, do you work on you work on more than just Vacaville, right?
Well, yeah, I do Sci5 and Sci7 on gold count.
So you do Sci5 and Sci7 too.
Sci5 is production and Sci7 is test on gold count.
Got
and S1 is production on Vacaville, and I have not worked on the test system in Vacaville.
Test system mainly is MVS test, or it's test 1, and then we got test 2. So they coincide with S1 and S2. So those partitioned LPARs, so whenever the data center, like Carrie, and if I remember correctly, Lupe is at franchise, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you guys are your own data center. So you guys do whatever the heck you want at franchise. So, but you guys install, obviously, probably on the test system first, and the end users will test it just like, we do. If a new version of FileAid is installed, the CDT the data center will let all the customers know. I, in particular, am one of those end users that is totally, from beginning to end, monitors the installs from step to step. So basically, the data center will email everybody, hey, new version of File Manager or FileAid, in this case, in either case, is a new version is being installed, or it's installing on, let's say, May 31st. Is this okay? And can you start testing it for us? They leave it up to the customer to start testing it. And over the years, I've been told a lot of customers won't test good enough, but me and my coworker are really pretty due diligent on that, and we try to get everyone else involved. Again, each one of these tools has kind of like a different flavor, whether it's CICS, which is the online folks, and the DB2, even though they're the same tool, but they have their own installation. So, and they have their own special needs. So again, that's just a basic little search in file aid. And then, you know, I bear with me on giving an example of file manager. It kind of almost looks like the primary option menu. So if sometimes I could jump into file manager and start testing this, and I'm going, what am I looking at? Because I don't use it. I'm kind of biased, but it's
Is it in utilities off the ISPF screen?
sure is. If you go to if you were in utilities, I don't know if you got, yeah, it's HWC DC. It should be HPD, and I think your guys are the same way. If you're on Vacaville anyway.
Oh, because you have H for HWDC utilities.
Yeah. So you guys, you might be able, your screen might be different. We have a customized primary option menu. So we kind of did this just so we could help the developers out to get to certain tools right away. So in this case, the primary option menu for our ISPF this is how it looks on my side of the house. And it would be H, and then again, there's a long list of stuff, and you can PF8 all the way down. There's all kinds of tools. We brought up Pro JCL the other day. If you wanted to go into the Pro JCL actual, you know, when they actually do an upgrade to Pro JCL, this is the only time I really use this, when I start really going through the screens and playing around with it and whatever have you. But I don't want to jump off case there. But these PD tools are just PD for problem and termination tools, or you know, for development. And again, this is file manager as opposed to what we call file aid from CompuWare. Just a different vendor. IBM's is file manager, the PD tools. So these are really used. Again, TAC is right. It'll be more of the it'll probably be more, the tires would be kicked harder and longer, probably more on the end user side, because that's why there is a separation where the data sets and the system side is doing a lot of, even though you guys do, there's developers at the data center always, they do it too, but it's just that the regular day-to-day end users are hammering away for all different kinds of options that they might have depending on the type of environment they're working in, what specialty, what kind of silos they may have set up, and different. I've seen it all ways. Again, I don't know many people at EDD they're so used to using CompuWare because it's been around for so long that, but some do. Some do. It does, you got to get used to looking at just different ways of looking at it. So basically, File Manager actually can allow me to browse AFP data if I wanted to, which I don't want to get off into that tangent, have everyone, that's a whole nother architecture. But DS list, no different than going to 3.4, right? That's actually a lab. Last time I used this was probably for a lab for when IBM was out here showing us this. Just another way of looking at 3.4, what we call 3.4 on a good old 3.4. Everyone has to know that one. So different flavors, just a different way of using File Manager and or File Aid, depending on which one you want to use. They have all kinds of utilities in here. You can find all kinds of things within PDS members. You can edit and modify Vsam files. That's what it's one of the main things people definitely jump into File Manager for, because they can jump into a Vsam structure and look into it. And what is Vsam? TAC, have you talked about that at all?
No, I think that topic was skipped, so it would be nice to kind of catch up with that one. I think it's data processing, and that topic, it would be good to go back to that one.
Basically, you're just a different file set, everybody. So it's basically a virtual all storage access method, and Vsam files can be very, very, very helpful for basically developers, because they can go through it. It helps them key off indexes within large files, and so IBM, every time I listen to IBM tell it, and this is where we talk about what they call, you ever hear the word cluster thrown around, they're talking about Vsan clusters. And so they're just a different type of data set. So you're talking about a cluster, and an index, and a data file. 3 files, but there's only one you're really looking at. It's the cluster. And it's grabbing all of them. IBM, every time I hear them talk about it, they keep saying that IAM files are the way to go, which is it's basically the same thing, but they say it's way more efficient. I have yet to hear anyone be willing to get off Vsam and or take that on, but they keep pushing that. They keep saying that it's way more efficient. I do have a coworker and who could probably talk about IAM versus Vsam for 2 hours, and because she used to be on the data system side, and she said she doesn't like either or over the other. She thinks there's good and bad with both, and she thinks, when it's needed, use whatever is a bit more efficient. But going, and this is just, again, this is just getting familiarized with the tools. There's nothing you can technically break as long as you're basically browsing stuff. And this is just, and like we were in File Manager here, just doing nothing but, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add a little bit to the VSAM discussion. I actually did look into VSAM to the point where I was looking into how a VSAM exists on a DASD. So it's not exactly the usual dataset. A VSAM actually has it uses a key sequence. That there are 4 different formats, but the idea is you can use a key to locate a record. So it's not really just sequential records where you can just go by one to the next one to the next one to the next one. You can also use a key to find it. But it also has a very interesting way of inserting new records into an existing dataset. So that means you cannot really look into the content of a VSAM dataset without a tool.
Yep.
And that's basically what this tool is useful. Why this tool is useful is because you're encountering a dataset where you cannot really see the content unless you have this tool.
Yeah, and that's really one of the big things. Thanks, Tech, for jumping in on that, because that's the main reason why you'll see, if anyone jumps into FileAid, most of the time it's to look at, in my experience, we're looking at being able to edit the Vsam file too. And actually, going back to what I was saying before over history, was when we had the ability to strip out bad records because we were the tail end. It's not necessarily the best way to do things, but when you're the tail end of production, it's okay, because you're allowed to do that. So you would have to use a tool like that. And without that, yeah, the way the structure of the vsam file is, you can't. So you need a tool like that in order to do something. So these are all tools that are readily available on everyone's site, somewhere. Yeah, at least in, as far as state service goes. How Lupe has it set up, maybe at franchise might be different, but the way Vacaville has it set up over here on our end, it's, you just go into the problem determination tools menu, and I'm trying to be more, just kind of show you stuff. If you want me to stop, if you see anything special or whatnot, let me know. When we talk about the workload simulation idea, that's where, well, actually, let's go back to talking about for development. Development, the biggest thing they want to do is they want to basically debug their programs and find out and step through their program, obviously, or step through a program, find out, see if it gets any errors whatsoever, and whatever have you. So in what a lot of people at EDD will use is, I'm just going through a menu that we have, but it's doing nothing but using what we call Expediter. And basically all I'm doing is, from this menu, is using Expediter to look at this program here, and it's allocating data sets. Dang, it didn't actually do it, did it? It's like I got to reset. Oh, I'm gonna. Well, looks like I messed up. I forget my. Well, I'll have to fix that later. Looks like I recompiled it and using a different tool. So anyways, basically what you would do is you would step through your program, doing something like this. You'd press enter, and then you could just do nothing but step through it. It allows you the option of stepping through tools, or stepping through each step of the program as it's executing. In the PD tools world, you have Debug Tool. Now this is where I lose a lot of developers. When they talk about Debug Tool compared to Expediter, it's like night and day. What Debug Tool forces you to do, as opposed to having one screen, it forces me to open up two different sessions of my emulator. One is for to submit the job. The other is to watch what's happening, seeing the exact same thing, stepping through the program. So you got to have two different sessions up in order to do it. Why they did it that way, I have no idea. Because the reason why I really say I have no idea is because everyone has either IBM Explorer or IBM Explorer is a GUI face inner tool that wraps all these tools into a GUI face tool. Are you guys familiar with that at all? Anybody?
We had a training class, but we're not using it at this time. I'm gonna look into learning it more. Yeah. And there's also other tools like Zoe, or there's other ones too, which is a GUI interface.
Yes, exactly. And here's a good example of it. We use CompuWare's Topaz. I had IBM Explorer 2 on the machine, but because of how large IBM Explorer is, I can't send it over the internet. So when we went to Windows 10 a year ago at EDD, it got knocked off my machine. So I need to get the flash drive from either Vanessa Ortiz, who always has it on, and I got to touch base with her and get it installed, because our EDD won't support both tools. I mean, our guys won't. But I said, I don't need you to support it. I'll do it myself. Just want to install it. So anyways, this is nothing but a GUI. What we're looking at here is Host Explorer. And I'm TAC, it is tying into problem determination tools. I know this may seem like I'm going off course here, but I'm really not, because this is all tied into this GUI interface. Actually has within it debug. It has all these runs. It has all these products that are actually available in it. I can open up AppIndate from a, well, let me stay, I meant to say FileAid. So you can have FileAid open in this GUI interface. Okay, there goes the microphone sound.
Yeah, that's probably me.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a background hum because I have an extra fan attached to my laptop computer.
That's what it sounds like, is a fan.
Yeah, it's a droning kind of noise.
Yeah. It's gone again.
Yeah, I just have to step back a little bit.
So basically, you're doing the same thing within the GUI. You know what? What I would always suggest is have the GUI interface open all the time. And when you have time, just do the same thing that you're doing on the mainframe. Try doing it on this too. Everything is almost like a right click away. So when I say, like, that's kind of how they always marketed this anyway, because the idea behind this was to basically build a host controller interface to really attract, and I've seen this happen literally, going to CDT when they were showing IBM Explorer, or CompuWare came and showed Topaz. I've seen younger people that know scripting languages. They know this GUI interface inside and out. I'll watch them learn the panel driven mode, not familiar with the mainframe side of the house at all. You know, I have a tendency, just I'm just so used to flying through all these. I'm used to doing this. I know what I'm looking at, kind of. I say kind of because, I can, at least get around. We're going to go around. I can look at something and say, hey, what happened here? You guys, I'm not trying to give you a concept here and throw you off, but what I'm saying is that was just fault analyzer I was looking at. So the same can be done on the GUI side. If I was to use the same tool that CompuWare uses, because like I said, we use Topaz, so it's a CompuWare suite. It's not the IBM flavor. And the other thing about that is too, if I have both of them in, I can pull them up both at the same time. You actually can bring them both in together, but I didn't have good experience with that. Bringing them both in together on the same GUI interface, because when you do that, you're mixing it up, and you can see that they're arguing and fighting in the same sandbox. So it's better just to have maybe IBM Explorer up, file, and the way those manuals are set up, Carrie, for IBM Explorer or even Topaz, they're really just page by page, just kind of get familiar with it. Really, it's pretty they're pretty well put together for that. But going back to what I was saying about the younger people, is when they're kind of like, what is this panel driven mode, PF9, PF8 equals 3.4, and then we show them this GUI interface at the end of their training, and this is why you're doing this. I've literally watched their eyes light up and I'm going, and they'll take and run with this. I got 2 or 3 coworkers that are in their 20s that literally were learning this in a development boot camp for EDD, and they just do work on almost nothing but the GUI interface. When they were in training, I saw the CompuWare training them, and they're like, "Oh, that's why we do this," and they just started grabbing and dragging windows left and right. So it's pretty mind-boggling to watch. Now I could flip it around. People older than me or my age will go, "What? Click, 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 clickety click. What? I know this. I'm not used to this." So they, there's just different ways of doing it. So if you guys look off to the left, this is nothing but a 3.4. This is Jez Explorer. This is nothing but one of my data sets. I'm double clicking. Oh, let me just look at a member. No different if I use file 8 or 3.4. Oh, I might have grabbed something it's probably not the one I wanted to grab. It figures. Well, there also is a lag time sometimes with the GUI too. So that's the other.
Yeah, so my question is, is it trying to pull all this data onto the PC, and then this is a tool that's running on the PC to kind of crack open the member to see what is in it, or is everything actually being done on the server side, and this is no more than a GUI interface to display what you normally would use, the 3270 to display?
It is really, it's just a host controller interface. Basically, it's just talking to it and it's bringing it back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it pretty much, that's pretty much all it's doing. It's so you're just, I'm trying to grab a memory that's not huge and I know is not.
Okay. So this class is about 2 hours and just a little bit more than 2 hours. We are about at the midway point. So we can see if people want to have a 5-minute break and then come back.
Yes, please.
Has it been that long? I'm sorry, guys.
No,
Yeah.
it's okay.
I'm long-winded. So yeah, you want to take 5? Let's take 5.
Yeah, so we'll be back at 6:40.
6:40. See you then.
See you.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm still online, in case anyone wants to ask questions. Sabir, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So my question is, from the perspective of the developer, let's say a developer wrote a COBOL program and it's run as a batch job. So the programmer is not going to be around when the batch job runs. And if the batch job fails, what kind of information does the programmer or the developer get from the system, other than it just did not work?
Well, that's what the production control folks are for, right? But they're not going to get necessarily alerted to their phone, obviously, except from the production control folks. That's why there's always a 24/7 production control group everywhere I've worked anyway, and they see jobs fail and they immediately would go to the on-call list for that particular application that might have failed.
Okay.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No. Go ahead with your question, because I was going to show you something. I can show you that in the meantime.
So my question is, if the program, is bombed out or it performed a particular operation, let's say with IMS or CICS, does the system record the transaction in the case of IMS? Does it record what transaction is causing the job to fail, so that will be part of the report that the developer can get back and go like, okay, I can see, when I was making this particular transaction, the system failed, and and then there's more clue. In other words, how does the system operator, collect all the relevant information so that the developer can look at the evidence collected so that the developer can do the debugging more effectively?
Well, that's a darn good question. And there is the best way is to, let's say the production control folks, if I go to them first, they go, oh, they're up. They say, hey, we noticed the job went down last night. I'm going to what we call the CA view. CA is just nothing but Computer Associates, a vendor
Mm-hmm.
that makes this tool called SAR, System Archive Reporting.
Okay.
So when you have an automated jobs or online job, they will bomb. If they're
Mhm.
jobs, that we'll leave the system out of it for a second, because there's a lot more. So, for instance, I'm looking up everything, let's say production job for our application. Our accounting code for EDD is EM. That's why you see an EM star inside this tool on my screen right now.
Okay.
And all I'm doing is looking at everything that ever ran, which would be a lot. But of
Mhm.
course, it sorts everything by the SysOut ID. So it'll keep certain jobs all in one grouping, and then, it goes in alphabetical order.
Mhm.
So, uh, uh, so let's say that, I'm the production control person or the application operations, whatever or the console ops, and maybe Carrie's at the data center might notice it first, or whoever.
Mhm.
And all I did right there, by the way, is I did an L because it's on tape now. That's it. If I don't do that, it'll something that's old.
Mhm.
If I try to select it, see it says no mount authority.
Mhm.
So I got to mount it before I can look at it.
Gotcha.
That's all I was doing there. Sorry about that.
Okay. I get it.
Sometimes I get on a roll here.
So is
So
this just like SDSF?
yes, we use IOF at EDD. I've always used SDSF until I got to till I got to EDD. So SDSF is just, this is actually CA view. So there is a difference. There's a system archive report. I don't know what you guys could use. Maybe EJAS is another way, but this SAR reporting system is just the Computer Associates tool for where the jobs all get archived to as they're developed. If I develop a job that I don't want it to go to SAR, I just want it to go out to oblivion, and I won't send it to SAR. So you got to program your JCL in order to send it there. It's because you want to keep a record of it. But I know what you mean by SDSF. And I'm going to bear with me on this command. I do an I here. That's I, nothing but the output in the regular jobs that are out there. I've ran a bunch. I'm looking up only my jobs I ran today. I had a couple of SOC 7s. And that was actually using Expediter. So that's IOF. Now, you said SDSF. You guys have SDSF. If I went to try to do that, hey, invalid option, it doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about. But if I was on your system, isn't that what you guys would do?
Yeah, we have different abbreviations, but yeah.
Yeah,
SDSF. It's on our main menu.
Yeah, it's on your main menu. Exactly. So yeah, until I got to EDD, I never used IOF. But yeah, they love IOF. So they installed it many years ago. But now in Carrie's world, she might be using nothing but God, how do they get to EJAS? Well, we'll do that in a minute.
On EJAS,
Yeah.
I have it's 12.14 on my system.
Thank you. There you go. I knew it'd come back to somebody. My brain is A lot of people in my job will not even touch EJS. Like, oh, well, it's just another way of looking at it. It's, so you got SDSF, you got EJS. So, TAC.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this job went down to S737. My biggest advice to developers is when they're starting off, and I know this sounds crazy, but you learn a lot by reading line by line by line and just scrolling through this. Because after a while, even for the production control folks can learn a lot from this too, other than just saying, hey, you got an S737 on your job, whoever's in control of this job, whatever group's in charge of EM, this application is called ABS. EM, the ABS group, we'll call them for the sake of this conversation, REQ. So the ABS on-call programmers will get called. And whoever that is and say, hey, this job, or they'll be running what we call run instructions. Run instructions are nothing but a data set that says, if this job goes down, what do you do? If it gets this, do this, but otherwise, wait till the morning. And I guess before I got to EDD, they used to be up fixing stuff through the night all the time. But then they put a lot of jobs, they started putting a lot of criteria on and realizing they didn't have to do them during the night. They can just say, that one can wait till morning. This one can wait till the morning. This one can wait. So they started prioritizing jobs like that. So in the run instructions, it'll say, just wait till morning, send an email to the on-call person and let them know. That's it. But other stuff, like everywhere I was at in the private sector, is, hell, whoever's on call, you're up. You're getting up, period. But again, I was on the tail end of production, so a little bit more intense. But something happens at the data center, oh yeah, carries up. Probably. Depending on, especially if it's database, something's wrong with the database, So, but really, TAC, you just go you're just looking through nothing but the job listing here, and you can see there's all kinds of information. But as you develop your own process of looking at stuff and learning how a lot of the applications operate, and knowing the flow charts, you can kind of get an idea of a pattern where if I was a programmer in this group, if I'm going back to my days as being in the development group, you get an idea of every time this job gets an S737, the first thing I would do I'd always have this big old on-call for I actually call it this on-call for dummies book. And it was nothing but every flow chart and anything I had to fix myself in order to get the job to run. I wouldn't keep every single thing because that would have been, every little note, like I called the programmer. No, other programmers, no, I wouldn't do all that. But I would look at this and go, it gets an S737. Usually it's this, if it's in this step. But as you can look at the job, you'll start seeing a lot of information. And a lot of this can also mislead you because it can also send you down a rabbit hole. One problem may be from another problem, which may be from another problem, but it's not really the root problem. But what's the tool that Carrie brought up? I think it was Carrie. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Brought up the other day. QW. Good old QW. When you start seeing these errors, you start going, well, let me see. Oh, that's the version. I hear a cat.
Yep, that's my cat. Yep, he's hungry.
So
this is Jennifer. I just have so I work in production, so I don't really see all this. So what we see is like if there's a failed job or ABEN, we see the errors. Where the actual error, not the actual error in the code, but it will tell us a specific error, why it happened. I don't know if I could share my screen, but I only
That'd be
tap.
great. That'd be great.
Can I
I'd love to
share
see it.
Can I share my screen, Tack?
Tack,
I think so.
can you?
Um,
She's.
So, Severe, you need to.
I just gotta stop, right?
Yeah, you have to stop sharing
Oh.
first, and
It's
let
on the
me
bottom of the screen, Jennifer. It's green and it says share screen. If you hover underneath Loopy's name at the bottom.
Right.
It's to be honest with you, this learning style, guys, to me, was the best way I learned. But if it doesn't work for you, let me know. I think discussions are great because this is where you learn different environments. Data center has a totally different world and authority that the average person doesn't work. Production guy, like Jennifer's a production person.
So I don't know if you can see this.
not yet. Let me make you a
Not yet.
co-host and see if you can do it.
It's on my screen right now.
Yeah, you have to click on that little green button that says it'll share screen.
I did, and it's showing on my screen, but it doesn't show on yours.
You have to pick the screen that you want to share.
I already did.
She might have a delay like I was having too. Mine was lit up too.
If I click on the share screen, it's
Mhm.
just saying there are 3 options. One participant can share at a time. Multiple participants is check. Then advanced sharing options. So which one?
I think basic is what you need, and then you should be presented a list of windows that you can share with us, and then you have to pick the one that you want to share.
Sorry, I wanted to interrupt for a second while you're doing that, Jennifer. You were asking about learning styles, and then I got distracted. Someone came in and talked to me for a minute. So, but I wanted to interject. I do good having something to follow. So discussions are great. I love that, but I do much better if I have like something I'm following, whether it's out of a book or something. That
Okay.
just helps me learn better because I'm old school. I'll age myself here. I'm 47, and
I'm
so
older than you. Don't worry.
I'm used to taking notes on paper and then referring back and highlighting things that catch my attention or I feel like I need to know. So going forward, if there's a possibility of that, that would be very helpful for me. That's my 2 cents I
Okay.
wanted to throw in. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna throw Tack under the bus a little bit here. Sorry, buddy.
It's
This is
okay.
That's
Yeah, I'm usually under the bus.
I got kind of I didn't expect to be and I'll admit, bear with me, guys. I will admit I'm a little bit unprepared to have started so fast, but it's an honor and a challenge. So I'm gonna make the best of it, and then I'm gonna learn from these. I'm taking notes of everything you guys say. Believe me.
And I know that we're all guinea pigs in this. We're the first apprenticeship cohort. You guys are the first instructors coming up with these classes. I mean, I get all that. So that's why I wanted to give you honest feedback.
Yep. No, it's
Yeah, that's
great.
helpful.
Okay.
It's all helpful.
Well,
I'm 50. I'm 53. So yeah, if I'm getting emotional over good constructive criticism, maybe I should just go ahead and retire and cry away like a baby somewhere.
What were you saying, Terry?
It was Jennifer talking, I believe.
Yeah, it's asking me for a password. Just I don't know. To share
It
my screen, it's asking for a
Yeah,
password.
it should not ask you for password because I just made you co-host. Huh. That is strange. Okay, I'll make you host instead of co-host.
I mean,
There you go. Okay, now we can see.
Yeah, beautiful.
Not me.
So let me ask you something real quick, Jennifer, before you keep going. Are you on console ops, or do you just basically, are you monitoring the systems on your shifts, or both? I'm just curious.
I'm just monitoring if everything ran smoothly.
Got it.
Your
Got it.
screen, Jennifer, your screen
Oh.
just went away.
Where
It
is
did
that?
go.
It's not
Sorry,
being
that
shared.
was me.
Oh,
I mean, I could email it to everybody, but I don't know how to share the screen. It's not letting me.
No, we saw it. We saw it.
Try it again.
The earlier screen was mine. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. So that was Tway's screen. It wasn't Jennifer's. But Jennifer, you are host to this Zoom, so you should be able to do it now.
Is that something you could see now or no?
No, we cannot see anything.
Jeez. So when I click on share screen, there are like 6 squares. It says desktop, whiteboard, iPhone.
Click desktop.
I click on desktop, right?
And then click on your
share.
You have your screen up.
Right, and then there's another prompt saying allow Zoom to share your screen. So it says open system preferences. So I click on that. It's like asking me for security password.
Oh, so Jennifer, are you using the desktop app or are you using a web client?
I'm using the web client.
So that may be why.
Do you have it downloaded on this? This is what happened to me. Is it on your machine? Zoom? Is Zoom on your machine?
Yes.
Maybe she can't she just go to start a Zoom again from her machine as opposed to using the link? Isn't that the quick workaround? And then put the meeting passcode in it?
I didn't set up any passcode for the meeting. So there should be no passcode.
That's the wrong. Okay, that's maybe the wrong terminology. What did I use when I started the meeting? I put a meeting code or something in there.
I sent you a link.
Yeah, and what I did was I took the digits that are on the last node there, and it says meeting. What meeting is it? And because those last numbers are appended, and I threw that in there, and that's what threw me into the meeting, which allowed me to use it better than last time. Last time I was just using the URL, which normally would work, but for some reason it was I was having issues. But that was the other day. I mean,
yeah, you have to install the desktop app first, because that is what we need in order to share screen and also use the
desktop client. I have the desktop client. That's what I'm using.
Oh, okay. So you should be able to share. Unless your computer is locked down for some reason. I have never encountered a lockdown system.
All right. Well, I get shared, I guess. I could email it to you guys. But when I open it, I mean,
it's okay.
I think Lupe put the password in the chat for you.
Oh,
he did.
Meeting ID.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There's a password?
The meeting ID.
Oh.
Meeting, I guess that's the proper terminology. The meeting ID. Tax being slapping me on the wrist here.
So if you copy that, save it to like Notepad or something like that, whatever, and then try opening the Zoom client itself. When you ask to join a meeting, it's going to ask you for a meeting ID, and that's the number.
And where did you send it? In the chat?
Yeah, in the regular chat.
I don't see that. Oh, sorry.
Down at the bottom, if you click on chat next to participants.
I don't see that anymore. Oh.
Yeah, you have to put your mouse into the Zoom window, otherwise the buttons won't show.
One thing about Zoom that kind of frustrates me is if someone takes over the screen, it will automatically go to full screen on you. So
yeah, you can press F11 to make it unmaximize.
Yeah,
I put it in the other chat as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Lupe.
Let me try this again.
I'm gonna download, share all these manuals, get all this stuff to you guys.
No, it's not accepting it.
No, you're still
It says-
connected. You're still connected to us.
But it's not accepting the password. It says enter the password for Jennifer Hall.
No,
Which is the-
so if you have Zoom on your computer, it's a client. It's its own application. So you'd go down to like your button, find Zoom in there, and then open up Zoom there. And then that would be when you click the join button, then you enter the number that I typed in there. This is not what you're asking. What's being asked for a password right now is password for your security on your own mainframe system. So they're two different things. You're going through the web right now, so you're like on the Internet Explorer or Chrome or whatever browser you're using. There's two different ways to access Zoom. One's through the browser and one's through the Zoom client itself.
So the password that is asking right now is the password when I open Zoom, the Zoom account.
I think it's probably your security for your mainframe or your systems or something like that. I'm not sure what that is. So I don't have any recommendations on how to work with that part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so exactly, Lupe. Yeah, Zoom is in your start menu, right, Jennifer?
Right. So it accepted that password, but it keeps giving me the security prompt. Keeps asking me for security again.
What does it ask you? Do you know what is asking you and what is the question?
Oh, right now it says allow the apps below to record the contents of your screen even while using other apps. I don't know what that is. Yes. So that's
Well, I'll take that error over what I'm dealing with. But you know, what's crazy is another reason why I didn't get my laptop right away, Tack, is I went and reached out to. There's 4 people in Mark's class that are EDD employees.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 out of 4, no problems at all. And I got one on the phone today, and we WebExed, and I'm showing her what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's in her class syllabus and she's clicking through it, downloading. Everything's perfect. But I just try to go, look, I go to tax notes, boom, blocked. And then it's inconsistent. Sometimes it'll let me in the first page, so I just said, forget it. I give up. Network engineers are killing me.
As far as the tax notes, I don't know if it's because you're signed into a Google account from work and not a personal account. So I have that on my laptop because because Canvas works through Gmail as well. So I have my own personal Gmail, and then I have a school Gmail, and I have to keep switching them back and forth.
Oh, wait a minute. So when you open up your Canvas, you got to go through and use your ARC information.
You have to use in order for me to look at tax notes, I have to use my school information.
Okay, that'll
So
be
when
something.
it comes up and it says request access, I just go down to the center of the screen and it has my name. If I click on that again, then I can switch to my school account.
You can also set up multiple profiles with your browser. Chrome is probably the easiest to set up multiple profiles, but Firefox can do that too. Because once you set up different profiles, then there won't be any confusion about the cookies and whatnot.
But anyway, it's not letting me do it. But
Okay.
I could read to you what it says
That's
on the thing that comes out of the actual compute the system and what error it is. It's saying this is what it's saying. A conditional logic error has occurred! Exclamation point. It says possible causes for this problem are, says wrong file being printed, JCL. So there are only 4 choices. So wrong file being printed, JCL error, or wrong AFP modules being used, JCL error, and wrong conditional code generated, programmer error. And the last one is AFP module error, programmer error. And it says here, please give this error report to the programmer. And then it's telling us what the conditional processing code is, the license number and VIN and the sequence number and all that. And then we will send this to the programmer, and the programmer gives us something back. What, he's gonna ask what step did it fail on? Where is the step? He's asking for that, and then we give it back to him. So, and then he sends us the green sheet on how to fix it. So we
Okay.
don't really work on figuring out what the error is. In my unit, that's how we do it. We just send it to the programmer, but it gives us as like a little specific area where the programmer needs to look at. Like it gives us at least 4 options on where the error.
Okay.
The error where.
And some of that could be pre-programmed. Some of it's based on run instructions within, or in the Jennifer. What do you guys know? What scheduling tool you guys use there where you're at?
Oh, I don't know. Could be.
Is it
assembler or no?
No. Scheduling is the. Let's see. There's CA7. These are old. CA11. Job track. There's
ESP.
ESP is what we use.
ESP. So that's what.
Yeah. So a lot of that'll say too. There's a lot of documentation that can be. So when you say, here's a good example. TAC AFP is an IBM official architecture. It's a whole architecture of really. Let's just keep back to the beginning days as advanced function presentation is printing. So the mainframe being able to print massive allowance of bills on duplex printers. So those AFP modules are nothing but compiled print streams. So there's 3 different ways. There's a form def, there's a page def, there's the overlays, and they're all like their own individual language, but they're compiled separately. The overlay grabs them all. So those basically AFP that's what it is. Now it's a lot more advanced with imaging, and a lot of it is electronic, and it formats into nice PDFs and all that, but it's still done on the mainframe side of the house. It starts there anyway. That's a good but that's great. It's great, Jennifer. We all have a different line of business. As a developer, TAC, you probably lived on the phone, had a cell phone with you, or how old you are.
I'm about your age. So you may be just months older than me at the most.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember the pager. Then I was happy when they gave us a pager that had text messaging on it. Oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, we thought that was high tech.
Yeah. So it's the reason why I ask those questions is because to the developer it's really kind of critical to get as much information as possible of how a job or an application or a program written in COBOL how it failed. From what I'm reading, there are fault analysis tools, and there are modules that can be installed into IMS, cookies, DB2, and so on, so that when something bad goes on, it would actually remember what transaction or what SQL query, was being used while the program is kind of kicked out and suffer in app end. So if that information is available, the developer now has more information because now the developer knows exactly which DB2 query is causing the issue, or what transaction was trying to do when the app end happens. So I'm not really sure whether that's an extra module that has to be installed or whether it is already built into ZOS and its subsystems. But if the operator cannot see it, it's probably not available.
And that's a good point. So it's like basically an information, gathering session. Really, it's like everyone's passing along the information. So in Jennifer's case, she's passing it along to the developers. The developers who are in charge of whatever that application is will jump on it next day or right away, depending on their requirements for that particular application. So the more information they have, the better. If there's something going on, at the moment, and there's all that stuff's also being recorded in these tools like you were reading. App-and-Aid is one thing that's constantly, CICS folks will constantly monitor a tool that's called Omegamon. I don't have access to that on our site, but they're monitoring the systems and the online transactions constantly. If I can share my screen again.
Yep.
H.VF is nothing but going into App-and-Aid or in the IBM PD tools world is fault analyzer. Again, once I'm in there, it won't let me do my nice little start command, will it? So I'm logged on to App-and-Aid. It's giving me a whole fault summary report. To the left here, you'll see all this header is telling you, job description, application. You can go down to all these batch just on S1. That's our, the development all par for us. Some people run production on S1, but EDD doesn't. S2 is par production. CICS test regions, application owning regions. This is all stuff that the CICS and DB2 folks, and file owning regions. But if I wanted to just go look at batch on, and you can see there's a lot of, I just get my cursor on it, and I start seeing all this stuff that happened. And my CICS team members that are in my group, they'll come in every morning and they're really hitting Omegamon and this hard, and they do system health checks. That's what they do on the system for the system online transaction side. DBAs have a similar functionality where they have, but CICS folks are there like, they have someone either logged on or coming. Well, when we used to come to work, there's always a requirement for one to be on site by 6:30 at the latest. Usually they're over there even earlier, but and they're monitoring these kind of things that go on. And this has nothing to do with this is from the system side, not necessarily a job that failed. It may be a job that it may be failing, but it's not something that's affecting, things that may go out. Sorry about that. I want to go to a different one. This one's a job name. It gives you the job name entry, and it's giving you the admin code. tells you the offset. If you know, tells you what day, time. Obviously, PF11 on ISPF, you're allowed to go all the way through this. And it's giving you the data set name where the report is mentioned. And it's actually showing you if it was going to be routed to someone and printed to somebody, it'll tell you that person. We call those in the state MIC codes for if there was output that had to be sent to somebody too, it'd be mailed to them. So this is basically just telling you a SOC error, SOC 4. Basically, you know, and you're just reading through the different, in this case, it could be lists of probable, this is all lists of probable OC4 causes, missing or incorrect DD name statements, try to read or write an unopened file, try to reference record area before file opened. And let's see, indexing or subscripting outside defined limits. Now, every time I've seen a SOC 4, 9 times out of 10, try to read or write an unopened file. Gosh, that is probably, guys, the most often I've seen it as a developer from the developer side. And then you can keep going and going in PF8 and reading through all these messages. And this is admin date. The other side of the house is, of course, fault analyzer. So for those that use the PD tools, the same thing. Now my CICS team member that does CICS likes CompuWare better, but when it comes to fault analyzer, likes it way better. And the reason why is because it goes much more granular, he said, than a much more granularity for him, for what he needs to do.
Yeah,
Great.
because it identifies these the CISC transaction, the third column.
That's dead on. And that's one of the main, the CISC transaction right off the bat. Exactly. So he doesn't have to necessarily read it right off, go looking for it, but right there he can go right to the, and then it's tied to IBM, so it's tied right down to the very guts of the machine. Mm-hmm. So that's where you don't have the proprietary clash there. So I understand what he's saying, especially from his perspective. I go, oh no, I get what you're saying. So, he goes, but he uses both, but yeah, fault analyzer is what he'll go to. And then they'll monitoring the online activity. They use a tool, like Omegamon. They're using that all the time. So they stay on that. So that would be them. Then they pretty much monitor stuff going on all day. Sometimes, and usually they're more proactive than reactive on online, in the online world in my particular environment. Again, with batch, that's when someone like Jennifer would come in and they'd be the first one and go, oh, I'm monitoring the jobs, batch runs tonight. Boom, I see a job that failed, and she's given specific, those where I said we call them run instructions. I don't know, abend instructions, whatever they call them. Everyone calls them something different. Control instructions. They pass along the information to the developers and whether or not they're fixed overnight. And then there's a problem solving session the next day. Now, depending on how bad it is, this is where the old adage RCA, ICAs used to come into play. We used to call those root cause analysis, irreversible corrective action, all that good stuff. And that's where we would go to the dang meeting room, and if it caused an SLA to be missed, what we call service level agreements to be missed in the private industry, we had to justify it, but we'd have to go into a meeting room and basically bang it out. Why? And then, some of it gets a little bit intense and people blaming each other, but this is real world stuff. So this is where you learn to really truly appreciate everyone's different role and why there is a separation, because the more you get involved in the mainframe platform, you realize how intense, not that anything else isn't, it's just that there's so many different things touching that it touches, that this comes into it takes a specialty most of the time to really, some people are just very gifted, or they have no, they just love this, they live, eat, and breathe the mainframe platform. And but it's so huge now because it can host everything, and it's been doing everything. And it just has so many. And then when you can talk about Unix and Linux, like what TAC was talking about. It does all that. Maybe a little bit different, maybe not as fun and or used is the same way that TAC's probably used to doing it. I am curious to hear what TAC has to say about that, because I only saw 2 or 3 developers that have been using Unix on the mainframe platform in my unit. So that's so when we get to that later on in the course, I guess we'll go over that then. And then there's debugging. Debugging is something that the developer will do. They're trying to program something. They're developing a program, maintaining a program, and they're using this tool to go through it, and they're going to use it to, and I'm going to go to CompuWare's version 2. Like I was saying earlier. So basically what you're doing is you're doing you could do online TSO, you could do a batch, multi-batch expediter. So you're debugging your programs up front as much as possible. Doesn't necessarily mean that once it goes into, that's why the testing people come into play too. Okay, I'm ready to hand this code off to the testing unit to do unit testing, acceptance testing, and regression testing, different levels of testing. And it's their own specialty unit. But after it may pass the development style, they start giving it those real hardcore, they're trying to give it real world scenarios as much as possible before they approve the installation of the program and or what we call packages, which is more than just maybe a program. I'm also updating the JCL. There's a DD statement I'm adding inside the JCL that the program will be referencing and sending something to, whatever have you. So that's where these tools come into play. And before we went on break, this is just like what the GUI interface, and all I'm doing is looking at a JCL member here. And more readable or not, some people may think it's more readable, some may not. The good thing about it is if we had this extra piece installed and paid, well, it costs extra money. For source support, it would take you to the actual line of code in production. Well, actually, it wouldn't. We got to get approval in order to install source support. In production source support tag, for instance, admin data will take you to the exact line of code where the program blew up, all within. So the developer would just look what happened, and it'll take it to the exact line of code where it blew up in production. In other words, they're synced. We used to have source support turned on years ago before I got there, but then something happened to where it caused problems. Now we're figuring out, CompuWare figured out what happened. They had basically a bug that's probably screwed something up, causing too many hooks in the system. So that way the programmer would go, oh, that's the exact line of code that it's having issues on, without going through a major listing and all that. Well, that's where it's having a lot of definitely a lot of eyes, that's where it's definitely seeing a big problem. That's the GUI interface.
And I can see this, being more of an issue. The what the operator sees versus having to pass the information back to the developer. When the developer is not in the same department, that is actually running the job. So I'm not really exactly sure, who are the clients of CDT. But those clients are the ones who have the developers, but CDT has the operator that's actually monitoring the output and the status of these jobs. So is there a standardized procedure and communication protocol, between CDT and its clients?
Yeah, I think
It's
the customer have to submit the incident,
right.
and then service desk route it to the correct unit to handle it. Depend on the error.
Okay. So is the process started by the CDT operator, or is it started by the client?
Well, I think what you're asking and what Tweet is it Tweet? Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, you say correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Everyone messes my name up, but I'm used to it. So in her case, you're in software support, correct? At CDT?
In product.
Okay. Okay. So if the customers are like, let's say EDD, for example, we wouldn't really get CDT involved unless CDT actually was the one on the system side saying, hey, what's going on over there? Your jobs are looping, or that's when they would get more involved, and more likely their console ops would tell us. But if it's actually a vendor specific, like we fixed something and we noticed something's wrong, we think there might be something wrong with the product that product support, or CDT has their own unit of that handles the vendor software support.
Okay.
Let's say we just looked at, in this case, CompuWare, or in IBM, these product determination tools, development tools. We say, hey, IBM, we notice this happens. Is this an issue? We open up they would open up an incident with them. But yes, going back to what Tweet said, we would say we think it's the product, and we would open up an incident and call, and because sometimes those tickets that we try to open up don't always get routed correctly to the right person, even if we try to put the right person's name, or there's an approval process for this ticketing system that one of our managers has to official approvers has to approve, and sometimes that gets lost, or they don't. You got to remember to remind them. I go, hey, like my boss is one of them. Somehow her name's on the list, and I go, hey, I opened up a ticket. Can you make sure if it needs approval that you do it? That way it gets routed right away.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, sometimes it might sit there waiting in the queue over at CDT. And then I'll say, hey, CompuWare or IBM's PD, let's say File Manager or File Aid, we're having issues with it. We don't think it's us, it's the product, or there might be a problem with the product. We have a workaround. Most of the time we'll figure it out. If not, and then they open up a ticket with the vendor. And then general procedures is they open up a ticket with the vendor, and then the vendor says yay or nay, or it's a known problem. The workaround for now is this. It's in our PTF fix list, so they're coming out with a PTF soon with it, or or in the next release, it's going to be fixed. Whatever comes first. So going back to what you asked, Tech, I mean, every place will probably do it differently.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, sorry for the long-winded response on that, but yeah, I know what she's saying. So depending on if you're Jennifer, she'll call the developers, correct? If you see a job went down.
But we also have a protocol if we need to if we need to contact CDT. They gave us an instruction on how to contact CDT. There's like two issues. If it's an internal issue, like I need to contact the developer, we have a protocol for that. And then we also have a different protocol when we need to call CDT. They gave us the contact person, the phone numbers, and the list of steps we need to do in order to get help. So, but we also have that incident report that Tui is talking about, which we use it internally. Um, for example, we have two printers that were actually, I would say, issued by CDT to us, and the printers are like automatically print the, I would say, the ESP work orders. We call it ESP work orders. Automatically gets printed out every day, and that's what I status every day. And see if everything ran smoothly. Those printers sometimes will break, and so we contact CDT for those.
Yeah.
They would remotely fix it on their end, and it will be fixed. But it's just done remotely, pretty much. But there's a protocol on how to contact them.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, just an example that happened to me today, like when I was doing my daily run jobs report on S1, there was an ad bend on one of the customers' backup jobs. And the error was that a file was locked, and that's why the backup job abbended. So I actually had to send an email out to the customer to let them know that their backup job abbended and the reason why, and to inquire as if they were doing something at the time of the scheduled backup. And they actually replied to me that yes, they were. And then we had to help them clear out the file that was locked. It was open in order for their next backup to run.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there's
Okay.
different situations for different protocols, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there's a million of them. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
But
yeah.
But problems can also happen, like within the system itself. With with modern hardware, they can self-monitor to a certain extent. And for instance, your solid-state drive and even your hard drive actually has a brain, and it can talk to the mainframe computer, or it can talk to the controller, and it can even report back, when it is expecting itself to die. So it can
right.
basically measure that. So who is going to monitor all of that, all of those system messages, and know that, okay, we need to do a system maintenance and swap out this component, swap in another one.
I think that's the command center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That watches all the monitors and stuff for any problems that arise. And then the command center, if there's an issue, then the command center will send out an email to the proper unit as
Okay.
to what's transpiring. Or in other words, like when our customers' databases, when they're starting to exceed the size of their database, and we automatically get system generated emails that are sent to us that tell us what department and that they're below a certain threshold in their storage for their database. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
about
recently we
yeah.
had a drive that was about to fail, and our system, at least for the drives and tape, when something like that happens, our system automatically calls IBM and sets up a ticket with them.
Okay.
And then all they do is contact us to say when they can come out and replace that. So.
Yeah.
So in a way, the humans are basically just a component of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Need
humans are.
security authority for someone to walk in the door.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
What
The
about
raised floor guys are the people that live in the, where the machines are all being hosted. Yeah. So yeah, what Lupe is saying, yeah, that basically you got the security person, and a lot of times IBM people just show up out of nowhere. They're already alert about it. You'll just see them walk up with and they'll just go to the machine, start doing some, you know, open up the doors and start going to work, and then they'll leave, and of course there's a cost with that. But then they maintain that stuff. But yeah.
What about the situation when there are too many jobs to run and the system is running out of resources?
I don't think that's an issue.
There are
So
only a few.
Well, it could be without enough initiators, let's say. Not enough initiators are open, but initiators are drained sometimes.
yeah,
I've seen.
I want to remind the class, we talked about initiators. They are basically each initiator can run a job at a time. So the number of initiators in the system limits, how many jobs can run at the same time. I hope you guys still remember that.
I hope I didn't give it away by saying
Oh, no, no,
blabbering
no.
off there.
No, I just want to relate, this discussion to something that we talked about in the past.
Sabir, what is that example of initiator? Initiator, is it like a start task?
An initiator is like a task.
It is like a tag. Yeah, go ahead, tag. It's
a task that is affiliated with JS2. And so under JS2, there's a pool of initiators, and then each initiator has its priority, based on job classes, and then within each job class, it can also have a priority level. So JS2, is the one who would do the scheduling. So that when you have incoming jobs, we are only talking about batch jobs here. So when you have batch jobs, JS2 will look at the incoming queue of jobs, and then it will use the prioritization of each initiator to queue it to the initiator. And then the initiator itself will just pull one job out of its queue one at a time, based on the job class ordering, and then within the same job class, it would use the priority. But the concept of initiator is, when a job runs, it would actually take up the address space of the initiator itself. So, and one initiator can only run one job at a time. Is that kind of how you understand?
I understand the analogy, but I want to tie it to mainframe more, because there was I remember validating for a product, for different products, and like for SAR, we go to eJest or Jest2, Jest3, and look up the job ID or job name, like SAR, TDC, something like that. And if it's down, it will say inact or JCL error or something like that, and that means we cannot use that SAR subsystem.
So that's a SAR started. That's a SAR CA view that I was showing earlier. That'd be the SAR started task, isn't it? I can't remember the started task name, Twee, so bear with me if I'm wrong on that. But SAR has its own started task. So everything has basically its own started task. But what TAC is saying, what kind of you're saying, let's say batch. Let's go back to batch for a minute. If we have a job, and since I'm sharing my screen still, oh, it kicked me out. Isn't that nice?
No, you're still sharing.
Aren't you still there?
No, it's not. No, Zoom is fine. I was just the mainframe kicked me out.
Oh,
I must have
okay.
been in too long today.
Yeah, CA view is SAR, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's SAR, you know, but CA will always say, no, keep calling it. It's CA view. It's not SAR. I don't know. It's I don't know what the heck, what that. So Tweet,
Yes.
you have a job, right?
Mhm.
Let's say you guys all run a job. Let's say I just changed the job class to something like B. It would throw like tax ed. It ties into what tax said too. If I change the job class of my job or whatever to whatever, let's say I change it instead from, I don't know, I'll just name one out letter off the top of my head, B. It might throw it into priority 9. Well, out of that pool, but however large pool 1 is, pool 2 is, pool 3 is, pool 4 is, all the way up to 9, that could be thousands before it gets to my job. So I would push it to, up to the front by, giving it a higher class. But then, having said that, though, initiators are more done at the data center side. There's times where they have to drain the initiators. I remember one time we were running batch production. Production went down, and not at the state, but at Sprint, but it all went down. And we're like, oh, what the heck? It wasn't really the mainframe, but what happened was they drained all the initiators. They didn't tell anyone ahead of time. We could have put everything on hold. And yeah, that was at the headquarters. So the data center was at headquarters. So somebody probably got in a lot of trouble for that. But I go, without the initiators, the jobs are just going to sit there, So they're just going to. So yeah, based on the pool and number, how large that pool is per priority, it puts it in a priority based on the class. Does that make any sense? So, I mean, I'm trying to think of what in SAR, do you know your SAR started task name is? I can't remember. I should know this too.
TSO SAR. SAR
In
TDC or TSO VR.
in S1 SAR is H.BDS.
SAR. What'd you say, SAR? I'm sorry.
TDC.
Oh. That's a SAR check. Does that look familiar at all?
No, I don't look at that.
And Jennifer, you said something too?
Carrie.
Or is that Carrie? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said like if you do equal H.DBS and then enter, that's your SAR.
Yeah, that's
I think Sabir was looking for the SAR start task.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
no. It's fine. This is great. One thing I do know, and is this in TAC. This will kind of tie into your question you asked me earlier. Hey, is this GUI interface really tied to the mainframe? Well, it is. Look, it has. This is CDT started task for. I'm sorry. This CDT started task for the host controller interface for the GUI interface. So it has its own started task.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating how, it was at EDD where I started really realizing all the interconnectivity that I didn't realize in my past previous life that we didn't leverage from the mainframe. that we could have. But a lot of that is time and resources. It you know, just like anything else.
And I know some people in this class need to learn about Unix too, or Linux or Unix.
I would love to learn. That's where I need you to. I'll admit.
So in Unix, there's no such thing as an ISPF. There's only what is equivalent to TSO. So you basically type in the command, and then you have to remember the commands, because it doesn't prompt you like what we are seeing here with ISPF. So there's no prompting whatsoever. There's no menuing. It's there's just that command line interface blinking at you point blank and going like, you better know what you're doing, because otherwise I'm not going to give you any hint of what you can do with this particular system. But in Unix there are equivalent commands to do everything that we're talking about, but everything is done through just the command line interface. There's no menuing whatsoever. So when people transition, when some of you have to transition to learn about Unix, it'll be let's just say, a new experience.
Definitely. Just messing around a little bit, I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm one of those old school. Speaking of old school, flashcard time. Just it's one way to learn, because it's really easy.
So
this stuff.
We are close to the end time for the class, so we're gonna kind of wrap up, and then kind of get a little preview of what next Monday is going to be about, and then we'll let everybody go.
Time's going by fast for me. You guys are making this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a way for us to see the initiator, or is that only command center or different units that do that have access to view the initiator?
Are you talking about the initiator associated with JAS2?
Yeah.
I'm looking it right now.
That is a good question, and I thought only the data center had access to look at the initiators, but I could be wrong. And if I am, I would like to know.
Okay, so JAS2 has its own language, and within that language it has one that displays initiator information. So now the question boils down to, how do you get to the point where you can talk to JAS2 directly? There's a command to do it. And I'm just scanning through some of the documents.
I believe, and I'm not sure I'm answering this question properly, but I believe in SDSF, there's I want to say DA or some of those different that'll show you the job and what initiator it is and the priorities of all the jobs that are waiting in queue.
Display active is what DA stood for in SDSF. That's why I liked in the print control room, it was nice because it would give you all that. Yeah.
And right here, it shows that IOF may have a way to do it too.
I'm pretty sure it does. Was probably lazy and too lazy to look at it.
It's also DA in View, S1.
I'm going to do that right now.
What is the pre mean?
Prefix of the job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like if I don't know, name one of your jobs. You're DC, right?
Yeah.
I'm not asking for your ID. I'll just look up. So I'm looking at everybody's ID that way. I mean, every job name that starts with DC. It's just a way in IOF to do it. SDSF, I thought, does that automatically, doesn't it? a prefix, or is there a setup you have to do with that? I thought it automatically would just do PRE prefix space, whatever the high level you want to look at. You can get as granular as you want. And these are probably all data centers.
Yeah, so DA work for me is showing a lot of active
Just,
stuff.
I wonder if so where do you do DA from, Twee? Teach me something here, because I'm just doing it from the command line, which I thought, and
I'm in the command line of Jest 13.14, and then
yeah, so okay. Oh,
I think it's 12.14. Yeah.
oops.
yeah, just
There you go.
And I took out my user ID. I think you have setting, like if you put display on, it will show what your setting is right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So right now is you having it to show that job name HWC. So that's why it's showing that only.
Okay, so is that kind of what you're seeing then?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at everything now. Oh, and then the nice thing about the eJez also is there's a nice little web. You guys know about the web interface for Jez, right? Where you can you can send output to a PDF if you want, text file, or whatever. Oh, you don't? Oh gosh, they held that back from you guys.
All right, so I think we.
I'm sorry I had to keep going, but you know what? I'm gonna write this.
Okay.
I'm gonna write this down. I'll make sure that you, because this is available as long as you have a rack FID, guys. You should be able to do it. As long as you're, and I'm pretty sure Lupe, you guys probably have it too. It's just maybe somewhere else. You guys use SDSF, but there might be something equivalent to it. Go ahead, Tech. You're going to do preview?
Yes. So next week, it's going to be ZOS installation and configuring. That's on the 12th. Today is the 5th. So 1 week from today, we will get into ZOS installing and configuring. And then after that, it will be communication. Under communication, it's going to be Unix system services, network topologies, and protocol support. So we do have some time, continue with this discussion, termination and recovery analysis. And we can also kind of go back to data management, which I did not go over. So that would be Vsam, all the different access methods, and to get to the content inside a data set. So Sabir, so that's kind of up to you, how you want to go over those topics for next week. And if we can find the right sections, of that kind of information, we can send that information to the class, so people can start reading. So it's up to you, if you can locate content, you can just send the content to to the class, or if you want to type up something, like this is my understanding of this material, you can also type it up.
Okay. So do you want to data set management in Vsam? I'm jotting this down real quick, Tex. Bear with me.
Yeah, it's in the syllabus. So in the
Okay.
syllabus we have data management, and that's one topic that I skipped. So we need to kind of go back and finish that one. And then termination and recovery analysis is where we are at currently. And then the next topic is going to be ZOS installing and configuring.
If you have stuff that you want us to preview, will you be putting it in the Zoom chat, or will you be emailing it to us through Canvas?
Canvas is probably the most reliable way, but I'm not sure whether Sabira has access to Canvas at this point. Can you access Canvas, Sabira?
Yeah, I'm in Canvas.
Oh, okay. All right. So
yeah,
that
I'm in Canvas. Let's just assume I, was stuck with this machine for now.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing I don't have my own machine, really, but it blew up a while back. And I go, oh, I don't really need one right now. I got an iPad, whatever.
Yeah, I sent an email to Kirsten already inquiring about the loaner, the laptop that we are configuring for you.
Okay.
So hopefully she'll get back to me soon.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye over on Canvas.
Yeah, so keep an eye open on the Gmail account of your student account, because all the announcements from Canvas will be sent as email as well.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a good night.
All right, you too.
You too.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Hey, Lupe, you got a second?
Yeah.
Hey, so let me ask you this. Bear with me.
Can I stay?
If you want.
Okay. No.
Hello?
Yes.
It's telling me to cancel the... I feel like I'm on the host right now. It's telling me to cancel the meeting.
Anyway, yeah, I think you can leave the meeting without ending the meeting.
Oh, I think because you made her the host, it's doing that.
Yeah, so Jennifer, you can make Sabira the host.
How do I
if
do
you
that?
go to so click on participants. And then when you go to Sabira, right click.
Well, it's just telling me invite. There's no... Oh.
Do you see a list of people?
Okay. Right click.
Yeah.
Make him the host. Okay, I did that.
Okay.
Okay, I just did it.
Okay. So now as long as Sabira is staying up, the meeting will stay up. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, then I can leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, Lupe. Now, is it as simple as, because obviously I was probably logged in, because this is on a Google account. I was probably logged in with my Gmail account. Are you saying there's an ARC account I should use for this?
Assuming you have a teacher's account. I mean, I have a student account, which is just my student ID at apps.losrios.edu.
Yeah.
And so I just use that. So if normally if I just log onto my system, it defaults to my personal email or personal Gmail account.
That's what I noticed mine was once you brought it up. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I see my little logo. Now I got out of it. So now.
So if you go and click on tax notes, so click home click on notes of tax. Oh, okay.
Okay, wait. Let me take a look at this. So it
that's
says
EDD block. That's like that's in-house.
Oh, okay. But let me finish reading this. Access to the application you were trying to visit has been blocked in accordance with EDD policy. Okay, so you need an approving manager to email the EDD service desk. Okay. Okay, so let me ask you another question, Sabir. doing this on the laptop natively, or is this going through not WebEx, a virtual machine? Are you remotely accessing a virtual machine in the office,
Um,
or
I'm
is
doing
this?
this straight through the laptop, but what they did do is once we started working from home is when we use this laptop, it automatically connects the first authentication
Mm-hmm.
before we get to which connects us to the network, but we're not fully in
Oh, so
until we go to
so
the second.
okay. So is it VPN? Is it using VPN? So you're technically connecting straight to EDD, and then from EDD it is trying to get out to Los Rios.
Yes, which is surprising because I thought Los Rios would be simple, but I think once the pandemic hit, they added an extra layer. But
I see.
what frustrated me was realizing that there's people in like Mark's class that are EDD employees that are having no problem at all. But
Maybe it's because you're important. They have to make sure that you
if that, yeah,
cannot
I
get to anywhere else because
guess.
you have access to crucial critical system operations.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, that sounds good.
so I'm gonna check with Kirsten. I sent that email already to Kirsten, and it was CC'd to you. So hopefully she will get back to us soon with the ARC loaner.
And he may have already had it, but I never saw a reply from him.
Right.
So I didn't want to assume and then get there and they go, oh, I don't have no record of you
Okay,
coming.
gotcha.
So yeah.
Yeah, I have a spare laptop too, but it's running Linux, so I'm not really sure whether you want to, get into that. Um, all right, so we're gonna check with Kirsten, and then we can. Yeah, that becomes an issue because it would be difficult for you to plan for the class. Now you don't have to get into text notes, okay? Because that's those modules I covered already. So unless you want to check out what is in those modules, because I can print those modules into PDFs and then share the PDFs with you, so that would be a kind of like a roundabout way to get you the content of all
Yeah.
of all of those modules. But I think we can spend our time to get ready for next Monday's class. Um, and the idea is you just have to kind of think about what material you want the class to read, either along with the lecture or prior to the lecture if possible.
Okay.
And prior to
Okay.
is difficult. I try to do that, and I would, if I were you, if I were still teaching this class, so technically I'm not teaching this class anymore, you are. So if I were still teaching this class, I would be spending all the time from tonight all the way to Monday, all the way up to the afternoon to get the modules ready because this is all new to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have to do that because you know this stuff already. So it's just a matter of getting the material,
Yeah.
getting the links, getting the document, so that the class can get a little head start, so they can read a little bit ahead of time. So by the time we get to 5:30 on Monday, you know they already have the material, they have started to read it already, and you just have
Mm-hmm.
to kind of go through the material that you have shared with the class, and then they can just follow along.
Got it. Got it. So the main things we want to focus on are data set management and VSAM.
Yeah, all the different types of data sets, all the different main types of access methods, how they're different from each other, when to use which one. And then also if we have any follow up on the current topic, we can do that too.
Got it.
And then on next Wednesday, we'll start to get into system installing and configuration.
Oh, that'll be. Got it.
Yeah, I know certain things, there's no way we can actually, show, but you can talk about the concepts.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking to having that meeting with IBM yesterday, Tech, is was important because when they brought up Marist
Mm-hmm.
University in New York, a lot of the stuff is already, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, is what I was kind of getting at. I was like, because I have seen those coursework and seen what they've done, and they were all pretty much like what was his name? Paul's, I think his name was Paul.
Yes.
Yeah. Paul is he helped write that curriculum. So yeah, those guys were all IBMers, or still are, a lot of them. And they pretty much, it's right down the street from the headquarters, and they go over there and they do their thing. But a lot of them are recorded, already pre-recorded. Listen to this before our class, or this is what you're going to do, is listen to this recording for class, and then I want you to answer these questions from it, and then we'll talk about it the next class. Things like that, but yeah.
But the JAC has already kind of set up, this setup for this cohort, so we can't, use the Marist approach, at least.
I understand.
For the time being.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what kind of feet I'm stepping on in that regard. So I'm not trying to get rid of anyone's job here. So, but I know there's probably a good handoff with it, because they have an agreement with IBM anyway. It was all built by IBM. So, yeah.
And then the other aspect is, that particular program is for IBM to train all of its clients. And we are here to serve the state of California. So we can customize our curriculum to meet the needs of the agencies of the state. So we don't have to follow 100% of what IBM is doing with Marist. We can basically do some customization, include certain things, exclude certain things. And this is our first time doing it, so we're still kind of putting things together.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know it actually really officially started, because of the pandemic last year when it started. And I was like, when it was supposed to start, I figured, well, maybe they're going to put it on hold until the pandemic's over.
Oh no.
So I didn't even know.
Okay.
So it started on March 16th. My laptop that afternoon, and on Wednesday they said, "Oh, at the end of the day, just go home and we'll tell you when to come back."
Yeah.
So I had 3 days of work, and that was it.
Really interesting. But you know what? Not to keep you too much longer, the having to struggle and learn from home and do the class from home, by the time you get to the office, it'll be like, if you ever go back, I mean, it's totally reimagining how we think now, and work. So we go from there. Yeah, it'll be a lot of things will be more simple, because it's always good to collaborate, but some things may be hard because you're not dialed in and focused. But yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
So
thanks, guys, for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
All
right. Night.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Jack. Good night, Lupe.
Yeah, so I'm gonna send some email to you, just so that we can structure Monday's lecture and also the material. Yeah, I think the key is really just to let them know, what material they need to read, or they can read along, on Monday, so they have something to follow.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, but I really appreciate you, having all these, years of experience with, using IBM, developing and also operating the IBM mainframe system, because I have zero experience in doing that.
Oh, I can imagine. It'd be like me talking about Unix right now. I'd be reading all night. That's what I'd be doing. So yeah. So I understand how you feel.
Yeah, so you're getting that email too, sent on behalf of the LRCFT Executive Board. I'm part of the EB of the union. This is your new union talking, because now
Oh,
you are a adjunct faculty of LRCFT.
yep. I
So
see it.
yeah, so this pertains to you also. So it's they're talking about salary, right now, all the potential issues with salary because we are ranked pretty low in terms of all the other colleges of California.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Well, actually, okay, I take it back. If you look at the full timer, the full timer pay is ranked 70 out of 72 colleges, so we are close to the bottom. But if you look at adjunct, which is your pay, compared to the pay of adjunct faculty throughout the state, it's actually not bad. I think it's above average. It's at least in the middle of the ranking.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
interesting. Yep.
That almost makes you want to go adjunct, huh?
Oh no, no.
No.
Yeah, I have enough teaching load and other things, so it's not too big of an issue. And I'm almost your age. I will be 53 sometime this year.
Okay, good enough. Yeah, I'll be. Oh, tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So you're
Yep.
just about, a few months older than I am.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So it's been great, man. This is definitely a challenge.
Oh yeah.
It's an honor. But I appreciate the patience.
Oh, no problem.
Because at the end of the day, and then we're doing all this ZOS upgrade as we speak. So we're a technical lead for that, and then we got our normal job to do.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna be like wah, cry me a river, but you know what I mean. So between that, I was on the phone most of the day dealing with
Mhm.
firewalls, putting those requests in and doing all that, and then